Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to my channel. I hope you are all doing well on this date today, the 19th of October 2020. Oh, how quickly this year is going, and the shocks, the events, the individual change and global changes are not going to slow up. They're going to keep going at this pace, perhaps even get more so. So there's a lot going on. So the title of the first of two videos I'm going to be recording this evening here UK time, the first one is called Timelords and Tiaras. Timelords and Tiaras. So as I launch into this video, this is really in reference to, let's say, time itself and its relevance to the events now, its relevance in our unique individual expressions of consciousness in our unique lives, and globally, their implication in the events and timelines that are playing out. So the easiest way to describe it is, as I've said before on earlier videos this year, once we hit January 2020, it really is as if the earth moved energetically and perhaps even physically. And as the earth did so, it really moved into an alignment that we are invited, coming from our heart consciousness, to match. So I call that timeline or alignment the global heart timeline. The global heart timeline, I'm excited to say, is at a point in its reality where it cannot be derailed, it can't be stopped. So the global heart timeline's outcome, or outcomes I should say, are all very positive, but the degree of grace and ease and peacefulness in which it unfolds is largely dependent on each individual person's individual choices, and also on each individual person's individual actions, whether they lean into, I call it leaning into, whether they lean into their own heart and therefore their perception changes, the programming falls away from them and they are able to see and experience through the eyes of the heart, or whether they lean into the complete ego, the complete programming, and get scooped up in this artificial, let's say, inverted grid of consciousness. So the artificial inverted grid of consciousness being connected to many of the dystopian elements of the currently unfolding world events. Now, there is a million things I'd like to say here, but in the light of so many of my favorite YouTubers and truthers being shut down just this week, they're shutting them down, taking them off their platforms, and then cutting off their financial supply and all sorts of naughty things. I can't really say, not on this platform anyway, and in this form, the things I would like to say. So I'm going to say them from the spiritual perspective, which means that there is the existence of an inverted artificial grid You could call it matrix, you could call it an agenda, that's all correct really. You could call it timeline, which appeals and actually magnetically attracts to it the old programmed form, the enslavement of humanity form of money, control, sex, narcissism, psychopathy. It appeals to these things. It appeals to humans on those base kind of levels and sucks them in that way. And of course, once sucked in, really it isn't just people being sucked in on a personality level at that point, especially at this unique point in history where everything is rushing together in that mini Big Bang, and really is very much about all timelines and realities now, and the decisions made here resonating, reverberating through all of those, which means basically if you sell your soul down the Swanee for money or power this time round, you're in deep trouble. It's not temporary that you're doing it, it seems for infinity. You're really not just messing up this time. This is pretty big stuff. So you have this going on, which is a timeline designed to magnetically draw on power, control, sex, drugs, the old form of money, not as an exchange of energy, but as a control system. That is a timeline programmed agenda within itself that is being given the same name across the world, which I'm not going to say. I'm going to have to speak in a way in code, but it's very obvious if you know what you're looking at and if you're looking through the eyes of the heart. So that timeline is engineered to play out over a period of the next 10 years with an agenda in mind that is not for the highest outcome of humanity. So that grid, that matrix, has a quality to it that kind of sucks people in that not only have those personality characteristics, but it really appeals to them on a soul level, and they haven't got to an awareness within themselves, or haven't even got to the entry rungs of the heart to really fully understand what they're letting themselves into or getting sucked into. Of course, you could ask me what's behind the artificial grid. The artificial dystopian inverted grid has different layers of intelligence and encodement to it. The bottom rungs of it being narcissism, psychopathy, like I say, that's kind of side of it. Behind that rung, even more, let's say, darker energies, and then behind that rung, even more darker energies, which are non-terrestrial origins, malevolent non-terrestrial origins. So layer upon layer, like layers of a cake, each independent layer not always knowing about the layer above them, very few knowing about all the layers of the cake. So it's kept a bit compartmentalized in a way. So the whole purpose of that is really to fulfill an ultimate outcome. There is so much more I'd like to say and want to say, but I can't say it. I can't say it on this platform or talk about it on this platform. So what I would say to you is it's up to you to open the eyes of your heart and either do some research on that and look around yourselves, or not, or decide not to go there. What I can tell you is much of what I'm talking about is going to become plainly obvious in your face. It's coming to a reality near you. It's coming to all of us. It's happening now. And so it will become plainly obvious, and the evidence, the shocking evidence, and this word shock, I've used it all year. In fact, I was using it at the back end of last year, if you look back at my videos, and saying this build up to something was coming, and then saying, you know, once we hit this year, it's going to be shock, 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 both individually for people and globally. As the truth comes out, you know, the truth comes out, which it has to come out. It's not just all about our individual transformations and individual ascension. It's the ascension of the whole planet. It's the ascension of Earth. It's the ascension of everything. And it's all interconnected. So you have this side of that, which is, let's say it's one form of inverted reality that a smaller proportion, I don't know how many that will be, but a smaller proportion will get sucked towards, or are getting sucked towards, or already up to their neck in it, because on a soul level they sold their soul, really. They decided to go in that direction. Of course, it will come back to haunt them, because they're not going to, this is a big one, because we're in a unique period of time where everything's converging. So that's pretty big. It's not like they're playing a part of the bad guy in this life. It's far more consequences to it than that. And then, of course, we have the flip side of the coin, which is absolutely fantastic, incredible, and unstoppable, with the outcomes of absolutely authentic living, truthful living, coming from the heart, your spirit, your soul in the lead, new relationship paradigm, new way of living, working, not the dystopian rollout, which is trying to roll out a new way of living, not in a good way. I'm talking a new way of living where you create your reality, where you are your own sovereign beings creating your reality. You are in complete alignment with source within yourself, coming from the heart, creating the communities you want to live in. You know, a fantastic world for everyone to inherit, but especially the children and grandchildren, and so the list goes on, going to be completely different, because you will be standing in your power and sovereignty for the first time since the years of Atlantis and Lemuria. So that's all about looking after everybody and service to one another, and nothing to do with serving an agenda. So that global heart timeline is fantastic and doing fantastic, because it's actually an internal thing. It's an internal thing going on inside people. It's not out there. It's in here. And millions and millions and millions, you know, every week are waking up into that. And to some degree, the shocks of the global world events that are going to keep on coming is helping wake people up into that. So there are all sorts of things swirling around in the mix, and those kind of things that are swirling around here between timelines, and one's sovereignty, hence the tiara, although I haven't got a tiara on, you'll have to imagine that. They're all swirling in the mix. So there are so many examples I want to use, but I can't spell them out in the way I want to spell them out for you, because if I do spell them out the way I want to spell them out, you know, anyone who's actually speaking certain truths at the moment are just being taken off all public, or being deplatformed. You know, loads of people per week. Several that I've been following for a while now all got deplatformed in the last 3-4 days. So in terms of the time and the outcomes and the inverted grid and the heart quantum reality, so let's say the artificial inverted reality and the quantum reality, two different realities. It's interesting because the artificial reality, the inverted negative reality, is attempting non-stop, like loading cannonballs into a cannon, to fire things out, both in energy but also in events, to alter events, mainly at the moment trying to alter or stop the election in America, but also to really quickly fast track in this artificial agenda now, of which there are many things under that umbrella, including the worldwide situation with the virus. I'm not going to say any more about that, even though I could speak about that for an hour. The so-called cure to that, and then the financial systems and everything else. You know, it's a huge subject. So there is that going on, and at the same time there is this pull in the other direction to create a reality where there is not that enslavement and that real negativity around money and those who have and those who do not, and the control around that. So there are certain events on, you could say, are they two different timelines? Well, yeah, they are two different timelines from two different perceptual rates and frequency, depending on where you're at in yourself, is which way you're leaning into. If you're watching my channel, there's 99.9% chance you are leaning into the quantum heart timeline, your highest outcome and the highest outcome for reality. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching me. There are certain events that come up according to which timeline the majority of the mass population of humanity are leaning into. So someone like me, I can't see it all. None of us can see it all, despite what anyone says that they can or can't do up on YouTube or anywhere else. There is no one that sees the whole big picture here. People get snippets of it, and that's that. So I can't see it all. The parts of it I can see, I am able to access both. I can see both timelines. So I am let's say, becoming the embodiment of the quantum heart timeline, obviously, but I can see and have awareness of the other timeline. So a simple example to this, I'll give you an example. So a big event when President Trump goes into hospital over catching the virus. So the inverted negative timeline was going in one particular direction and was working very hard to bring in a global, seemingly natural event at that point to stop the election. I know what that actual event was likely to be, but I'm not going to say it on here. But then when he went into hospital and not only didn't die or anything, but actually there was an outpouring of love overall, which strengthened him and strengthened the global heart timeline, because Trump is to do with that global heart timeline. It was at that point that the orchestrated event got changed and may not happen at all now, or maybe the timing of it will be different. But it was, I like to talk in percentages and sizes. So there was about a 65 to 70% chance that would have happened, that event, and then got changed because he went to hospital. There was an outpouring of love, and the quantum heart timeline strengthened still further. So both timelines are interconnected. And you lean, it's according to which one you're leaning into on a heart and soul and spiritual level, depends on which the overall outcome. If you've got a few billion leaning one way, of course that's going to make that heart timeline in a way speed up. I mean, it's all happening in the now, but go even faster, be even more, the results coming through being even more amazing and fantastic, much quicker than it would if you didn't have so many doing that. While it doesn't hang in the balance as which timeline will win out, because we are in no doubt about that, you know, the global heart timeline is the one that does it, it wins out. But the speed at which it does it and the amount of let's say obstacles that one has to overcome individually and globally is dependent on that. So there is an effect, there's a cause and effect going on. So there is loads and loads of amazing stuff happening here. there is incredible stuff to come, and we are getting so much help, let's say angelic help, you know, help from our ancestors around us, help from, let's say, our benevolent, the loving lineage that are connected to the stars, you know, beautiful loving star seeds coming in en masse to help people as people's consciousness awaken to the star seed within them. Their so-called junk DNA, which was never junk DNA, is activated and switched on, so they remember more of who they are. You've got this coming in en masse, which is fantastic, and a lot of amazing things to come. And then you also have, let's say, energies coming from off planet to help with that, which is 24/7. So that stimulates human consciousness, if you like. And at that same time, you have from the inverted artificial dystopian agenda, which is an actual timeline of events they're trying to roll out, which they are rolling out. You also have the practical things of working around that, but you also have those energies coming in to try and attract people, especially if you have that persuasion and you're quite narcissistic, or you're very much in your ego, which you're unlikely to be if you're watching me on here, because you wouldn't like my channel, I don't think. Or if you are ruled by money, or ruled by sex, or, you know, ruled by power, and it's all me, you know, they're pushing a thing out to try and pull you into that direction, because it's the same, let's say, rules apply. If you've got billions leaning that way, it strengthens the outcome. In this case, it can't change the ultimate outcome, because the global heart timeline is too strong, too many are in the heart. But it can certainly cause some chaos and havoc and make it much longer for humanity to see the beautiful results of that quantum heart timeline, which is not just your complete full incorporation of your own full unified state of inner union consciousness, but it's actually creating your reality and living the world that you, your family, your children and your children's children deserve, and is your divine right, your sovereign right, your sovereign right. Hence the title Timelords and Tiaras. You have a sovereign right to be your sovereign authentic beings, and you have a sovereign right to be free within yourselves, and free within your consciousness, and free within your life. What I would say again, you know, is there's a kind of dance in a macabre sort of way going on between the two, although the quantum heart timeline is just running straight ahead and nothing can stop it. But like I say, things can orbit around it that kind of have to be accommodated for, shall we say, which is happening all the time, 24/7. I mean, we can see this. One just has to take the time and make the effort to just do a little bit of research and look around to see that this is happening all the time. Where I was referencing Time Lords, of course, because it is all about time, and as the, let's say, the consciousness changed and the accessible quantum heart grid timeline became solid, physical and real and active within a lot of people once we hit January 2020. Of course, a byproduct of that is in some people, not everyone, because not everyone's ready for it yet. Everyone's ready at different stages, at different points. But within each and every heart, there is, as I've spoke about before, a stargate, one's own inner stargate. And these inner stargates are, you know, where you are able to access past, present and future, you know, zip between them, and actually alternate realities, parallel dimensions, all sorts of things. It's like you are your own TARDIS, like Doctor Who, and it all is all from the heart. So once people discover that they have a stargate within them, you know, your own stars inside you and source inside you, that is phenomenally empowering for people. They don't look for it in the same way outside of them, once they tap into it inside of them, they come to realize these things and come into their mastery. So how you think and feel about things most of the time. I'm not talking about some of the time. I'm talking about how you think and feel about things most of the time is pretty much imperative, because that really really truly affects what reality is going to form around you. It's not like people do dip and fluctuate, so don't get worried about that or kind of paranoid about that. But how one's predominant resting state is 99.9% of the time, month in, month out, is likely to be the reality that you're going to experience. And of course, long term, those that are not the embodiment of that quantum heart timeline will find it very difficult to remain within the existing reality, because the existing reality will not support it. As the quantum heart timeline, let's say, becomes more, the easiest way to describe it is more solidified in a way. Those that are not of it, or not able to reach it, or not on that path, or have gone completely the other way, the planet and the consciousness is not going to be able to support that. It's frequency specific. So that's going to get more challenging for them, and anything that is in the way of them, if there's someone that is trying to make the journey into the heart and there are things in the way, it's never been more important to clear that stuff out the way now. To get as much help as you can from people, just clearing that stuff out the way. Go within all that old historical energy. Like I said, there's plenty of people about that can help with that, including myself, but there's loads of people about that can help with that, genuine people. It's never been more important to clear that stuff out the way now, so that you can get on with the business of living your highest reality and living that quantum heart outcome. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. It has somehow got dark while I've been filming. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you found it interesting. I'm just going to go straight on to record a short one I have in mind to record at the same time while I'm doing this. To those of you on Patreon, I keep promising to be back on Patreon soon. I will be back with you soon, I promise. And thank you for hanging in there for me. For the rest of you, look after yourselves. Do your research. Look around. Be discerning. Clear your stuff. And look after yourselves and those you love. Most important of all, your humanity is the most important thing of all. Loads of love to you. Take care. Peace out.